All right, let's dive into something I know a lot of you are really curious about, fasting. We're going way deeper than the usual stuff you hear, getting into the real science and how it can help you feel amazing. We're looking at a podcast episode called The Beginner's Guide to Fasting for Health and Vitality as a starting point, but we'll be adding our own take on all this.
Yeah, fasting's a hot topic, that's for sure. But
hmm
there's also a ton of confusion out there. We're going to break it all down for you so you can really see how it all works.
Okay, so first things first, what exactly are we talking about when we say fasting?
Well, the podcast we're looking at says it's basically just not eating for a specific amount of time.
It's not about starving yourself, though, right?
Right, exactly. It's more like giving your digestion a break.
hmm
And it's not some new fad diet either.
No, it's been around forever.
It's been part of so many cultures and traditions for centuries. But what's really cool is that science is starting to back up a lot of what people have been doing for a long time.
The podcast mentioned a bunch of different ways to do fasting, which I thought was really helpful. Intermittent fasting is one you hear about a lot, especially that 16.8 method.
Yes, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours where you can eat. Then there's alternate day fasting, so you're basically switching between eating days and fasting days. And then there's extended fasting.
Right, like those longer fasts for 24, 48, even 72 hours. That's definitely more for people who are experienced, not really for beginners.
Okay, and what about time-restricted eating?
That's basically picking a window of time each day when you eat all your meals. Like maybe you only eat from noon to 8 p.m. The main thing is finding a way that works for you and what you're trying to achieve.
So with all these options, let's get into the science. The podcast talked about some pretty amazing benefits, like weight loss and fat burning get mentioned a lot, right?
Yeah, fasting helps lower your insulin levels, which is a big deal because insulin tells your body to store fat.
So if you have less insulin, your body starts using up that stored fat for energy. Exactly. And that shift in energy source is a big reason why fasting can be so effective for managing your weight.
It sounds like it does a lot more than just help you lose weight, though, right? The podcast talked about a metabolic boost and something called autophagy, which is like a cellular cleanup crew.
Yeah, autophagy is amazing. It's basically your body cleaning up all those old and damaged parts of your cells.
Wow, so it's like hitting the reset button for your body.
Pretty much. Studies show that it can even help with things like Alzheimer's because it gets rid of those harmful proteins that build up in the brain.
It's crazy to think that not eating for a while can have such a big impact, even down to the cells. And it can even help with inflammation, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of promising research showing that fasting can reduce inflammation. That's a huge deal because inflammation is linked to so many health problems.
Okay, so we've got weight loss, cellular cleanup, better metabolism, and less inflammation. It almost sounds too good to be true. But is it all actually safe? I mean, that's a big question a lot of people have.
Definitely a good question to ask. While the research is pretty exciting, it's still important to be cautious. We don't know everything about the long-term effects yet, especially for people who might already have some health issues.
So it's best to check with your doctor first, right?
Absolutely. Especially if you have any concerns, your doctor can help you figure out if fasting is right for you and how to do it safely.
That makes total sense. So, assuming you've gotten the okay from your doctor, how do you even get started? What are some tips for beginners?
The biggest tip is to start slow. Don't go jumping into a long fast right away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Start small, maybe just extending the time you naturally fast overnight while you're sleeping, and then gradually make it longer as your body gets used to it.
Slow and steady wins the race. And the podcast really hammered home the importance of drinking enough water during a
Oh,
fast.
absolutely. Staying hydrated is key. Plain water is best, but black coffee or herbal tea are fine too. Just avoid anything with calories.
And the podcast also stressed that it's really important to listen to your body. If you're feeling awful during a fast, don't just push through it.
Yeah, that's so important. Break the fast and try again when you're feeling better.
Your health always comes first. Okay, so we've talked about different types of fasting, but does it really matter which one you choose? Or is it more about finding something that fits your schedule?
It's definitely more than just convenience. If you want to stick with fasting long-term, you need to find a way that works with your lifestyle, your goals, and any health concerns you might have. It shouldn't feel like you're punishing yourself.
It should be something you can sustain,
Mhm.
and you should still be able to enjoy the food you eat when you're not fasting.
Exactly. And speaking of what people think about fasting, the podcast spent some time debunking some of the common myths out there.
Yeah, let's get into that.
All right, myth number one. Fasting is the same as starving yourself. That's just not true.
Definitely not.
Fasting is all about having a plan and giving your body a break. It's not about depriving yourself.
Okay, myth number 2. Fasting is only for weight loss.
Nope, not true either.
We've talked about how it can do so much more.
It can boost your metabolism, help repair your cells, improve brain health, reduce inflammation. It's not just about the number on the scale.
All right, last myth. Fasting is always dangerous.
This one's a little tricky. Like we talked about before, for most healthy people, it's generally safe when done the right way. But it's always, always smart to check with your doctor first, especially if you have any health conditions. They can give you the best advice for your situation.
So it's all about personalized advice, not just general rules. Wow, we've covered so much ground already. We've talked about what fasting is, the different ways to do it, the science behind it, and even busted some myths. But what does this all mean for you, the listener? How can you actually use all this knowledge to improve your own health?
That's the exciting part. It's all about using this information to make smart choices, figuring out what works best for you and your goals.
I like that, this whole idea of making it personal. So how do you actually go about that? What are some things to keep in mind?
Think of it like having a toolbox full of different fasting methods, right? You can try them out and see which one fits your lifestyle, what you like, even your schedule. Maybe the 16.8 method is perfect for you. Or maybe it's time-restricted eating that feels better in the long run.
It's about finding what works, and it might even change over time, right?
Exactly. Our bodies are always changing, so what worked for you a year ago might not be the best thing now. That's why it's so important to really pay attention to how you're feeling and be flexible.
This isn't a quick fix. It's about finding a way to live healthier overall.
That's it. The podcast really stressed starting slowly, which is so important.
It's easy to get caught up in all the excitement and want to jump into a long fast, but that's probably not the best idea.
Right. It's like anything else. If you start a new workout routine, you wouldn't try to run a marathon on the first day. You have to ease into it.
Speaking of easing in, the podcast did mention some side effects people might experience, like headaches or feeling tired.
Yeah, those are pretty normal, especially when you're first starting out. Your body is used to eating a certain way, so changing things up can be a bit of a shock.
But usually those side effects go away as your body gets used to it. Is there anything you can do to make them less intense?
Staying hydrated is super important. Also, maybe avoid doing any crazy workouts while you're fasting. Oh, and make sure you're getting enough electrolytes.
Electrolytes, I haven't really heard about those being important for fasting.
Yeah, they're key for keeping your body's fluids in balance, and that affects how your muscles and nerves work. Things like bone broth, coconut water, or even electrolyte supplements can help.
So it sounds like fasting is about way more than just skipping meals. It's a whole different way of thinking about food and your body.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about being mindful and listening to what your body is telling you.
What about the long-term effects of fasting? Did the podcast say anything about that?
They did. And this is where it gets really interesting. The research is still coming in, but some studies are suggesting that fasting could help you live longer and healthier.
Healthier, meaning what?
Think of it as how many years you live in good health, without any serious illnesses or limitations. It's not just about living longer, it's about feeling good while you do. And some studies show that fasting might help with that. It goes back to that whole cellular repair thing we were talking about.
When you give your body a break from constantly digesting food, it can focus on cleaning things up and fixing damaged cells.
Exactly. And over time, that can make a big difference in your overall health and how long you stay healthy.
It's pretty amazing to think that just changing when you eat could have such a big impact, but it's not like fasting is some kind of miracle cure, right?
Right. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
There are so many other things that go into a healthy lifestyle.
Like getting enough sleep, managing stress, being active, and having good relationships with people. Those things all matter too.
Exactly. Fasting can be a great tool, but it works best when it's part of a bigger picture of taking care of yourself.
So we've covered the different types of fasting, the science behind it, busted some myths, talked about safety, and how to make it personal. Before we wrap things up, I'm curious about the future of fasting research. What are some things you're excited about?
Oh, that's a great question. One thing I'm really interested in is how fasting could be used to create more personalized medicine.
What do you mean by that?
We're starting to understand how different people respond to fasting based on things like their genes, their gut bacteria, and their lifestyle.
So everyone's a little bit different.
Exactly. In the future, we might be able to create fasting plans that are tailored to each person, kind of like a personalized prescription from your doctor.
That would be amazing. So it's not just an ancient practice, it's a field that's constantly evolving.
It really is. And on top of personalized medicine, I'm also really excited about how fasting could help with chronic diseases. There's already research looking at how it might be used to treat things like diabetes, heart disease, and even some types of cancer.
Wow, that's incredible. It seems like we're just starting to understand all the things fasting can do. This has been such an eye-opening deep dive, and I'm sure our listeners are feeling the same way. There's definitely a lot more to discover. It'll be interesting to see where all this research goes. But for now, let's bring it back to our listener. What are the key things you hope they take away from all this?
I think the most important thing is to understand that fasting isn't just another diet. It's really more of a lifestyle change that can totally change how you think about food, your body, and your health.
Right, and like with anything powerful, you got to approach it with caution and get advice from your doctor.
Exactly. It's not about following the latest trend. It's about making good choices for your own health journey. So as we finish up, is there a question we can leave our listeners with to get them thinking?
How about this? If you could just hit the reset button on your health, where would you even begin?
Ooh, I like that. Maybe exploring fasting with all its potential benefits and ways to make it your own could be that first step.
Awesome. So, to our listeners, we challenge you to take all this info and actually do something with it. Don't just let it sit there.
Yeah, go out there and research different fasting methods, talk to your doctor, maybe even try a short fast and see how you feel.
This deep dive has given you the foundation. Now it's up to you to build on it. It's your health, your vitality, your journey to explore. Happy fasting, everyone.